A lot of people who are actually very, very sick, they actually can't afford the health care that they need. And I always thought that if a person had insurance, that everything would be okay. But for some reason, sometimes insurance would pay, sometimes they wouldn't. Sometimes they would have to pay out of pocket. Sometimes they would have to pay partially out of pocket. And it never really made sense to me. So I said, you know what? If I'm going to be able to provide better care for my patients who actually have these questions with me because I'm sitting with them in the back, and they're wondering, like, why is this medical person asking for so much information in regards to my finance? I needed to be able to inform them of why I'm asking for it, and the importance of me asking for it. So that's when I started to inquire about personal finance, and that's when I found our firm. It's called World Financial Group. We're actually a subdivision within Transamerica. The big pointy building in San Francisco. That's our parent company. What our goal here to do is to educate people through the classes, such as the one that you guys are in right now. So for those of you who do have a previous experience in finance, just know that this is a very basic class that you guys are going to go through today, kind of going over some basic terminology, the differences between the different tax brackets, the different ways that you can save money. So please excuse us if you have prior experience, because this is a very basic class. And I'm very happy that we have somebody of Chelsea's caliber here with us, because her previous background, unlike mine, is in finance. She has experience on Wall Street. She has experience in the finance sector of a big company like Apple. And my theory is if you can manage that much money under a company that big, such as Apple, you can definitely manage someone's personal finances. But what she explained to me early on in my career is that personal finance, there's a whole different set of rules than in regards to, say, corporate finance. There's a lot of nuances, tips and tricks that apply to us in our personal lives that we don't necessarily get in the corporate world. But also, it's a little bit different too, because when you're doing corporate finance, you're dealing with money that isn't yours. So it's easy to be more objective with it. But when it comes to personal finance, there's the whole emotional aspect of it. Is, are you doing something for your kids? Are you doing something for a loved one? What exactly is the money going for? And so being able to have a plan is so beneficial. There's a saying that says that people don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan. And so Chelsea is actually one of our best trainers here, is that even though that she has this experience in finance, she helps somebody like me with no formal finance background understand the nuances. So she's really going to be good at breaking down the technical terms and the technical nuances of finance for people who don't have that experience. So again, it's going to be a basic class, but you guys are definitely going to learn something, even if you do have a background in finance. So with that said, I'm happy to introduce to you our presenter today. Her name is Chelsea Shi.
Let me unmute myself. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, Fritz, for the kind of heart-falling introduction. Why so? Because my put down into that industry just for one building, I realized, wow, this industry must be huge, the real estate industry. But guess what? The financial services industry is actually more than 3 times of the real estate industry. When we're talking about real estate, we're talking about commercial, we're talking about residential, we're talking about all those downtown CBD buildings in San Francisco, in New York. And financial services industry is 3 times more than that. Why so? Because collectively, all our retirement, all our life expense between, say, 65 to 95, we live up to there, is all falling into the first section, financial services industry. Huge money is there. But a lot of people, including myself, I used to very, very overlook in this industry. Why so? Because my back then, like 10 years ago, when I still work at the big corporation, my subconscious is, as long as I'm working hard. The society rewarding people working hard, rewarding people who is a good citizen. So the rest should be taken care of. I shouldn't worry too much. But unfortunately, it's not about worry. It's about the game rule. If I purely work hard, but I didn't really understand the game rule, then that could be a disaster down the road for me, for my family, and even for the next generation. So I just want to quickly highlighted some areas as a person, as family, people who care our own family, care about a lot of people that we need to really look into. The first thing is really the demographic structure. Why this area, the personal finance or the overall financial services is such a huge industry. Thinking about how many people are baby boomers, how many people are walking into their retirement age right now on every on daily basis. So basically, not even mention daily basis, every 7 seconds, one person is turning 65 at that kind of speed. Every 7 seconds, one person turning 65. Of course, right now the full retirement age 67, but still, imagine if today I'm 65, I'm reaching the distribution phase of my life of retirement, then it means huge money is on the move and huge demand is underlying in the society. And per day is actually close to a 20-year period. The speed people will getting into retirement in that speed. What that means, personally, it means if we are not this demographic group, uh, what they do that way will kind of impact our retirement. If we are in that demographic group, that means we are on top of a huge wave. Everything we need, there is a huge demand for that. So we need to plan ahead of time. And why I just get into this industry. This is a very interesting, very simple survey. People will, when they ask me that, do you fear about that, or do you fear about outliving your money? Back then, as a young person, just have a young baby. Also, of course, I fear about that because I still have a young baby. I still have a lot of responsibility, and life should be, beautiful. And that is something really a deep fear in young person's life or in young person's heart. But as I go through working more and more in this industry, seeing so many families out there, I literally see my neighbor who is 75 years old, very, very healthy, even don't have high blood pressure, high blood sugar. Basically, just all her lab work is perfect at 75 years old. And when I chat with her, she said her husband was, passed away when she was even 59-year-old, and left a huge medical bill. So right now, she literally just purely living on Social Security and a house. Lucky enough, the house was paid off, and she's even thinking about to take cash out from the house or to do a reverse mortgage to support her day-to-day living. She's healthy. She's 75 years old. Her parents all live up to 90 plus years old. She kind of worried. So I, starting to look in families in further deeper or have a deeper conversation with them, I just realized, oh, it actually makes sense when you're thinking broader. More people fear to outliving their money. It's just because if we just started our, life newly established family, we don't feel that way. But when we go down the road, when we see more and more families struggle at the late part of retirement, then we realize how it is another challenge. The challenge is actually a long-lasting pain for a lot of family. So yeah, even this is not a pure issue of United States. is actually become a trending, not trending topic. It's just a topic human beings or the entire society have to facing. People in Japan writing a book, The Nightmare called Longevity, and it was translated in many language. And in UK, there is another author from the London Business School also write a book called A 100-Year Life, living and working in an age of longevity. So right now, if thinking about it, if before we retire at 65, and we on average we live up to 85 years old. So we only need to work like 45 years of career and taking care of 20 years of our retirement. It's relatively doable. Plus the social security, everything was pretty, well established, say 10 years ago. But right now, we still working for 45 years, but we need to support from 65 almost all the way up to 95 years old. That means 30 years of retirement life or even longer. And plus, think about it, is that 30 years time period is just a 1.5 times of 20 years time period? Not necessarily. Actually, we should say, we can say with pretty certainty that it's not only 1.5 times of money we need to taking care of that time period because of the inflation, because of the medical expense, because of the long-term care. It definitely will be double, even more than double of what we need than 10 years ago if we only need to take care of about 20 years of retirement. And talking about retirement, there's another great shift. Just thinking about, when we look at people who is right now close to 60s or over 60s, you ask them where your retirement money came from. A lot of people will tell us, oh, we have pretty good social security income, and plus we also have pensions. For younger demographic, if you ask them, do you have pension? They will say, what's pension? They even not just heard that from on paper, but never really see them in real life or heard about it in real life. So less and less people have pension, and social security is another thing not we can truly rely on anymore. People used to joking, it's not social security, it's so security, which means it did not offer any security to our retirement life. That means it used to be a 3 lakh stool and to be very stable, to peacefully support our retirement life no matter how long we live, because social security is lifetime income and pension is lifetime income. But now, unfortunately, social security is not reliable. Pension is not even non-exist for younger generation. That means the personal savings is something we should heavily rely on to. And unfortunately, a lot of people I can see, like me 10 years ago, thinking as long as I'm working hard, as long as I'm a good citizen, the rest should be taken care of. No, not true, not true. But is that hard? I would say if we understand how the personal saving part should be taken care of, it's actually doable. It's just a lot of people didn't realize the importance of that and didn't plan early enough. So why we said Social Security is not reliable. This is a snapshot. If you go to the usdatclock.org, which basically counting the US debt in the different types of debt in real time. So back last year, November, before the Thanksgiving, and when we take a snapshot, it's 23 trillion. 23 trillion. We could look at the top left corner, 23 trillion. That's we can consider that's the total. And when after 6 months, actually less than slightly 6.5 months. Look at that number. It's 24.9 trillion. The U.S. debt in half a year period of time increased almost 2 trillion. We all know where those 2 trillion came from, right? Because the government have to print a lot of money during the pandemic to really taking care of, the job losses, many, to keep the society moving. 2 trillion in half a year. And if we look at the history of the U.S. national debt increasing, we can see almost in 1981, all the way to 2000, around 2000. In that 19 years, the U.S. debt only increased to 5 trillion. The total is 5 trillion. But from the next 20 years, from year 2000 to right now, guess what? The U.S. debt from 5 trillion to 24 trillion, actually close to 25 trillion. What that means? It means it has to came from somewhere, either tax or social security benefit decrease, or it have to came from a place. Now, where that place came from, it should impact all the families. So we have to know what's out there down the road. What if another 20 years down the road, when we close to our retirement age, we have to know what the potential trap or triggers or the trend could be. So when we're talking about the population is aging. People typically say that we talk about longevity, but we didn't really feel what that means to people still working. Because they also a joke, and it's not a joke. It's actually true. Social Security is probably the most legalized Ponzi scheme. What that means? It means we always think we save more. We paid a lot of Social Security tax, so our Social Security should be pretty plenty or enough to support our retirement. Unfortunately, that's not the truth. The Social Security tax we paid into Social Security is actually supporting whoever retiring right now. And then, so back in 1950s, there is 16 working people support one retiree. And in 1960s, it became five working people support one retiree. And fast forward to 2015, it will be every 3 person supporting one retiree. And the expectation is fast forward to 2035, there will every 2 persons support one retiree. So just do the calculation when you're going to retire and how many working people will support your retirement during that time. And that's for Social Security. That's why we keep saying that Social Security is not Social Security, it's social security, or is what we pay is for current people's return, and our own retirement we have to pray there is enough working people to support our retirement. So that's how Social Security works, and that also means a lot of burden is fall into our own personal savings. We need to understand how 401k works. We need to understand how tax works, especially the tax during retirement. And we need to understand how we should efficiently save our retirement, either in IRA, Roth IRA, or Roth 401k. There's so many types. People typically, I don't want to worry about that. But guess what? We have to know how that works in order to live a responsible life. So talking about the market, SP 500 since 1997. That is back. Look at this chart. You'll be amazed. During pandemic, the SP 500 from 2700 close to 2800, all the way reached to over 330. Basically, advanced about 30% from that point. About 15% from that point. And each time, so what that means? It means the market is very, very overpriced, and fundamental economics is not really following the same trend. And the market, why market advanced that much? Because we print a lot of money. The money is either reflected as the additional liquidity in the market, which is the situation right now, or it have other ways to really digest that additional money printed. So it's not surprise. It's actually not surprise the market advanced in such a wobbly fundamental economics. And the SP 500, if we look at this chart, each time, if there is a market crash, if there is a recession, what lever we could pull? We could reduce the interest rate to really lift it up the market. So if you look at back in 2001, that light red shaded area, that's a recession, the tech bubble, and then 911. The market is actually go through a pretty long downturn, about 2.5 years, slightly more than 2.5 years. And during that time period, the interest rate decreased from 6.5%, almost down to 1%, and stay at 1% for a while until the market resumed the uptrend. That's how the federal kind of use interest rate as a lever to lift it up the market. And in 2008, again, when the market crashed, the interest rate decreased from 5.25% all the way down to less than 0.5% for a long, long time. And guess what? The market resumed a tremendous, almost a 10-year uptrend. But during this process, did the Federal increase the interest rate? No. Why? Because if we increase the interest rate, the economics is not stable, and it could immediately go down to another downturn. And right now, it's pandemic. The interest rate is not a lever anymore. It used to be a lever. When the market resumed a healthy uptrend, we just increase the interest rate. And next time when the market go through a crash, we'll be able to lower the interest rate. But right now the interest rate is close to zero, all zero. The LIBOR, basically, it's an international indicator of the global interest rate. It's also stay very, very low, close to zero. And so right now, if the market goes through another crash, we have no lever to pull anymore. And how this related to us? It related to us, the good side we can see is we can do refinance right now. But unfortunately, refinance price will increase, will become more expensive down the road as well. But not about the interest rate. It's just the fee will increase. I'm talking about refinance. And on the other hand, it means if the market go through another crash, it could be a free fall because there is no lever, no interest rate lever we'll be able to pull anymore, right? So that's just something keep in mind as a retail investor, or which area you dare to step into, or which area, if you rely on the equity market to be retirement resources, say, hey, last year it grew up in 2019, the SP 500 is increased close to 30%. And this year, even in the pandemic, it's increased pretty fast. So I can just put my 401k in the market and let it flow. And during my retirement, I don't need to worry about that. No, that's not true. We need to understand what's ahead of us. With no lever to pull, with the market boosted by additional liquidity, the 2 trillion printed, the money printed, and with the fundamental economics is very wobbly. Do you dare to put your 401k, your IRA, just in the equity market? Questions, answer for each family is actually should be different. So talking about jobless, we all know what's happened during the past couple of months. But what I want to emphasize is, this is old data. If you look at the data trend, initially it reached to 6.8 million, and then it started decreasing. But remember, all this number is actually stacking on top of each other to be a burden of the society. So that's why we see the number in May, June, July is actually continue decreasing. But on the other hand, do you feel more and more people around your friends, family, neighbor get laid off or lost their job? Because all this number is actually increasing. That's a new claim, initial unemployment claim, which means it's a cumulative number. So that's what's scary about during this current stage. Another thing is a lot of jobs actually will never ever come back anymore. It won't come back in the same way. So if we say we have expertise in XYZ, but if this XYZ kind of career never come back anymore, that means we have to adapt ourselves, really have a plan B, really know and learn new things quick enough to adapt to the post-pandemic social restructure. And so that's what we keep talking about in our internal classes. We do need to have a plan B. We do need to understand the game rule, not just become a chess on the whole strategy. We need to figure out, at least we don't need to figure out the detailed market data, but we do need to understand the long-term strategy, the long-term social trend that is highly, highly relevant to our own family situation. Unfortunately, what we're talking about today should be very, very simple, very fundamental in personal finance. But just because of the education structure, personal finance is not even a requirement in many states in the United States. Actually, only 4 states right now in high school require the financial education to be part of the high school curriculum, required curriculum. Unfortunately, California, where is our office currently based, is not a state that require that kind of education. That's why we see a lot of next generations. They are, 4.0 or above GPA student. But when you're asking them what is compound interest or how should you save your personal, allowance or whatever monthly, just a little cookie jar too, they have no clue. They actually never ever been taught to look into that direction, which is essential for us to. I would say it's a surviving skill, but it's never ever taught. They was taught about calculus. They are told about this type of subject AP, that type of subject AP, but unfortunately, never ever taught this survival skills. That is something is really concerning. So it's not us, our generation, need to understand the game rule. At least we need to taught our next generation. They don't have to, if it's not their passion, they don't have to dive super deep into that area, but at least they need to think about in order to fit into the society, in order to taking care of their future families, what kind of financial decision they need, what kind of financial knowledge system they need to have in order to make this a wise decision financially, right? Another simple but very, very, to me, is very intriguing point is to start early. When we're talking about start early, if in a 40-year period, our typical career, if we start the first 8 years and just save $2,000 a year, not a month, a year, that means we just save less than $10 a day, we'll be able to achieve this goal, right? We just save for 8 years, and in total, about $16,000. And if this, we be able to manage this money to grow at a steady 10% compound interest, at the end of the 40 years, that 16K become over half a million, right? But what if we didn't realize the importance of start early? We start 8 years later to play the catch up game, and everything else stayed the same. During that 32 years, almost the entire life, just the only difference is start 8 years later, and the entire life, same type of return, steady 10% compound return. Guess what? We only be able to accumulate 374K in this in this process. So imagine if you're young enough, if you still have 40 years to save, and if you know, if I start 8 years early, it makes a huge difference. I put much less and I grow much more. Would you be able to do that? Would you still spend that $2,000 to, just die out one more time each month? Or would you save that $2,000 in a solid investment product, ideally leverage institution? Because only when we leverage institution, we be able to get steady return. People will say, oh, 10% steady compound return. It's not easy. Yes, it's not easy individually, but it's still doable in the institution world. And of course, even better if we be able to become a disciplined saver investor in the entire life, then the result could be even more amazing. So talking another thing that we need to understand, ideally in the future, we need to let the next generation to understand, or let many families out there don't understand, to understand this, because it's very, very fundamental, which means if we're in the accumulation phase, which means, for example, today I'm 40 years old, and in the next 25 years, I'm still in my accumulation phase, which means I'm still working, I'm saving for my retirement. And if today I have 100K, no more additional funding, just 100K, flow with the market. If the market go up first, which is the brighter red line, I go up 29%, 18%, 25%, and then go down and then go up. And the last 3 years, which is go down, negative 14%, negative 21%, and negative 12%, versus the same type of market return. I just reverse it to be negative first and then positive later. Everything else stay the same. Guess what? It should arrive the same point, because we all know multiply rules, right? You multiply a multiply b equal to b multiply a, so it should arrive the same point, right? Makes sense, right? It's just a simple mathematics. But what if today I'm 65 years old. My by the way, my 100K after 25 years old, when I reach 65, will be over 600K. So right now, I'm using this 685K as my retirement fund and start to taking out money, 5% withdrawal each year. And the first account still go through the same market sequence, basically increasing first and then decreasing later on. Everything else stay the same. The market return, everything else, all the other middle portion still stay the same. The second line is just simply reverse all the returns. Guess what? If we experience during our retirement, if we experience the decline market first, and we still take 5% of withdrawal, annual withdrawal, after 13 years, our retirement fund will be depleting. 685K is pretty decent for a lot of families' retirement fund. If today I have 685K as my retirement fund, I should feel well, be able to survive the whole retirement. But unfortunately, if the next 3 years is a downside market, is a recession, then at age 78, my money will depleting. So thinking about that, when you reaching 65 or when you plan to retire, would you be able to forecast the next 3 years when you're reaching the retirement age will be an up market or will that be a down market? Nobody be able to tell. We even not be able to tell the next 12 months. We even not be able to tell Monday when the market open, would that be a gap down or it will be a gap up, right? So no one have the crystal ball, not even mention many years down the road when we retire. So are you want to gamble? Do you want to gamble about your retirement? Do you want to gamble about your family's retirement life or the people you truly care, you truly love? So this simple consequence is simple fact is something we need to understand. But is there a solution? There actually is there are many solutions. Depends on which one is suitable. There is guaranteed lifetime income. There is guaranteed downside protection. There are many ways we be able to plan out our retirement peacefully rather than gamble on the market upside or downside. So here is a sample, just to redigest the earlier information. So investor A is have 200K but experiencing an early gain. So people who ever retired at 2019, this is literally how it works, but the true market data is 1989 to 2008. And then still withdraw 5%, 10K, starting with 10K, but with 3% inflation. So at the end of the first investor A, early gain, after withdrawal, it still started at 200K. After 20 years, have 614K in their retirement fund. But investor B, same 200K, just unfortunately started from 2009, even backwards to 1989. So basically started from a downturn, early loss, and then will depleting their fund after 18 years. So that's the difference. Again, do we want to gamble? That's really a question. And is there a solution? Or are there many solutions? Yes, the answer is yes. And is that hard to understand? I would say very easy as long as we're really willing to step into the personal financial planning world to learn a little bit about the basic fundamentals. So talking about the tax structure is something. Remember we mentioned if the U.S. national debt be able to grow 2 trillions just in half a year, do we need to think about where is the lever? If interest rate already stay that low, the market is already way overpricing the fundamental economics. And what's next? The only, I would say, among those levers, very few levers, the easiest one could be tax next, right? So tax, we need to understand the rule. Again, that means there's no way we can escape or there is no solution we'll be able to deal with upcoming trend. The answer is yes. We just need to understand the tax rule. Again, tax rule can be very simple. If today I have 100K, depends on this 100K of asset where it's sitting, the tax rule is different. But generally there are only three scenarios: taxable, tax deferred, and tax advantage bucket. So in the taxable, there is CDs, savings, brokerage account, mutual fund, all this investment home income, all this is taxable, right? So that means if I have 100K in 2019, I'm lucky enough. I capture all the market uptrend. I use 100K to grow to be 150K. Congratulations. But on the other hand, that 50K will added on top of your normal income to become a short-term capital gain, which means 25K or more could go to Uncle Sam. And if that 100K sitting into the tax deferred bucket, you did not pay Uncle Sam at the initial, and that is tax deferred, is compound growth until we retired. Typically, it's retirement fund because it's a tax benefit, and all the tax benefit have a social reason. So in the tax deferred bucket, majority of the account is retirement related. So 401k, 403b, IRA, SEP IRA, annuity pension, and the last is rental property. So rental property also have that feature. When we buy a rental property and until let's say 20 years later when we sell it, the tax at least deferred 20 years, right? So all this is long term, number one. And number two, remember at the very back end, we need to pay for the tax. Do you know how much tax you will pay? To be honest, I don't know, because but my concern really is, I think it's a very legitimate concern, is the overall tax structure, tax bracket will move up significantly down the road because there is no other levers to pay, to pull at this point. So all this account better than the brokerage account. At least they have some tax benefit. Our retirement, if that's the case, we are in danger. We are in danger because we don't know how much we need to prepare. If Uncle Sam increase the tax bracket during retirement, then that could be an issue, right? So tax advantage. A lot of people significantly, a lot of families significantly overlooked this bucket. Myself, while working at the big corporation, I know the taxable actually have quite some cash in that category. And I know the tax deferred because company all offer pretty good 401k, retirement benefit, profit sharing, so why not? But the tax advantage bucket, not really. I only know 529 is probably not suitable for my kids because it's impact the financial aid. Other than that, Roth IRA not qualified, municipal bond return is too low. 7702, what's that? Never ever heard about it. And when people tell me it's life insurance cash value, oh, insurance, no, that's boring. I'm not interested. So that's my perspective and attitude. Like almost 7 to 10 years ago. But right now, I realize, wow, this tax advantage bucket in the financial planning is a very, very important tool. Actually, very handy. Every family be able to get it. But I just overlooked that for 7 to 10 years. What a pity. So I would highly encourage you, if that tax advantage bucket, you haven't fully leveraged that bucket, which means today, if your money, you already paid income tax, you actually have the option. For example, not much. If I have a 100K. Sorry, I have 10K. Let's use this simple. I have 10K. I'm close to 30 years old right now. Assume that, and that my 10K grow at 8% compound return. That means if it's in the taxable account, repeat that process until I retire. That will be 160K. not bad, 10K to become 160K. But if I put that money in the equivalent return, which means in the taxable 8%, because the other 4% paid to Uncle Sam, and in the tax advantage bucket, we don't need to pay that 4% to Uncle Sam. So we'll be able to keep the 12% all by ourselves. And then that 10K at the age of 65 will be 640K. What that means, go back to the initial topic we're talking about. When I'm early in my career, I think don't need to worry as long as I'm working hard, as long as I'm a good citizen, I pay tax, good tax, then it should be good. I should be taken care of during my retirement. But unfortunately, my underlying thought process is if I pay tax, I must earn money. If I pay income tax, that means my income is pretty good. If I pay capital gain tax, that means at least I earn money. If I lose money, I don't have to pay tax, which is true. And I also thinking if I pay tax, roughly I will just pay 1/3 to Uncle Sam. So not much. I keep 2/3. Not bad. It's fair enough. But look at this. Are we truly just paying 1/3 to Uncle Sam? For 1 year, that's true. But for our entire career life, for our entire accumulation period, which is not true. Uncle Sam kept majority of them, and we only keep a quarter of it. That's the tax optimization overlay with compound interest rule. That is how powerful when you really have a strategy, when you really understand the very, very basic, you could figure out the huge difference between the two. So who we are, initially when I launched on this platform, I feel, wow, this is really kids in the candy store. Why? Because I worked in the financial services field before, but never ever looked into my own family financial situation that closely. And when I launched on the platform, I learned a lot. It's really a lot of practical knowledge. Work with a lot of really warm-hearted colleagues like Fritz, like many other people, everyone truly willing to help families out there. So initially, I learned a lot of knowledge. But at that point, when I see the Transamerica logo, my underlying idea is so we learn knowledge and then we sell Transamerica product. That's completely a misunderstanding initially because it's the same logo, but it's completely different position. So I would say Transamerica, if it's the product, it's more of one of the good prescription medicine, but it's only treating one or two symptoms or disease, right? And us as a financial advisor arm or independent agency, WFG Transamerica independent agency brokerage arm, we are kind of like a money doctor. So we are not tied to any of the specific prescription medicine, even though they are all good institutional level of money management, of insurance companies, of mutual fund companies, or active management funds. But us is a neutral position. This platform is a neutral position. Focus on the client, focus on the family needs, and doing the overall wholesome financial planning, provide a solution, provide a strategy, and then we use all those prescription medicines to help to take out as a execution, a solid execution. That's how it works. So after understanding this, I'm feeling more comfortable. Wow, now I not only have the knowledge, I not only have the knowledge to make a solid decision, but I also have the very handy tool to carry out that strategy, to make it actionable, not only just a pure knowledge in theory. So basically what's unique about this business platform, I would say my first-hand experience is when I work at big corporations, I know this is important, I'm interested, but I also want to test the drive because I don't know how good I will in this area. I might even be able to make a living to support my family to take this as a career, even though as a business, even though I'm curious, I want to try. I know this is something useful, beneficial, but just how much? So test drive, part-time basis test drive is truly allowed. It's actually a very popular approach. A lot of our business partners is taking. And talking about compensation, I know today, if you are truly new in this entire area, this is probably something more advanced. But I just want to say nowadays, we are talking about multiple income stream. People talk about that, but how many people is truly take action on it? When people thinking about multiple income stream, we're thinking, oh, we'll work at one place 40 hours and then we hop on Uber. Not nowadays, Uber is not that profitable. But anyway, we do another side job after hours to get another income stream. No, that's just I mean, how many hours we have? Only 24 hours a day, right? So when we're talking about multiple income streams, we're talking about active income, personal income. We're talking about agency income in this field, which is more of a passive income feature. It's almost like a personal income is like you use your expertise to help families out there. The agency income is more like you own a 10 units apartment in an apartment complex, and that 10 units drive you rental income similar to that nature. Of course, when you get on board, you will learn much more details about that. All this is all beyond apartment complex analogy. It's equal to you earn a commercial, you own a commercial building, I would say. That's why we see on the right side the the income of the company is something, no matter it's average income or it's the high end, high range income. For example, the EVC, the average annual income is over 1 million. This is above and beyond many people's scope and comprehension. Why? Because there is multiple income stream. There is personal active income equal to our W2, equal to a good job, but there is also commercial building level of rental income out there. So consider our options. I would say the option one. Of course, all this is your options, your decision. But for me, I feel to learn and get my own family taken care of. That's very, very essential. Because if we don't know the game rule, we're just one chess in this whole system. The upcoming trend will really, run over us. And of course, after learning and after get a solid strategy for our own family, we be able to test the drive, be able to try out as a twin career or as a side business hustle to see if this is something we be able to handle, we be able to do. And of course, if we truly enjoy the process, or at least we learn a lot and this is beneficial, we be able to really step up to become a business owner rather than somebody else, passive income, basically employee, right? So that's the next option. And I would say that all these options is not mutually exclusive, which means you can launch out as option one, which is what I did back then, because I realized even though I majored in finance, but like Fritz said, the personal level of finance or family financial planning is something completely different from what investment banking is do. So definitely there is no hesitation. Option one for me is something almost essential because I don't want to left out, left behind. And option B and option three, you can continue to add on to it because it's a journey. It's not something you have to day one. Oh, I choose option A, I choose option B. It's always evolving. That's what we will say. And then option A, of course, how to engage this option. Talking to whoever invited you over they must have a suitable and solid, easy to action upon solution for you based on your specific situation. So yeah, so basically that's what I want to share today, and hopefully it will at least lead you to think about it in this Saturday morning. Especially it's a long weekend, you can get a really take the action, take the very first baby step, and potentially that baby step many years ago changed my own perspective and changed my family financial trajectory. And hopefully it can, help you do the same thing. So with that, that's all I want to share today. And back to Fritz.
Well, thank you for sharing all that information with us today, Chelsea. I hope everybody, you guys took a lot from that. And we give this information out free because we really believe in our mission and that no family should be left behind financially, and we want to help as many people as we can. The only thing that we ask is that you guys help us out, help us improve our presentation. So in the chat, we included a business review. So maybe like if something wasn't clear on one of the slides, or if we could have elaborated a little bit more